All right, there we go. Whew. Wow, that is something. All right, so I don't use this system that often, so please bear with me. I'm coming to you from Pegasus Plaza in downtown Bien Hoa, Dong Nai, Vietnam, where it is getting hot today, and it will be probably a thunderstorm later on. It is just after 10 a.m. my local time in Vietnam, about after 4 a.m. in London, and it is Tuesday night in New York if you're watching from the East Coast. Okay. Um, this is the June schedule, the remainder of this month. You can see the videos if you need to go back to the FX Street videos. They are on FX Street live videos shows. You can just go ahead and look for those there. But remember, it's 11 p.m. prior day in New York. The YouTube videos are on youtube.com, and you can look for Trade with UFOs there. There is a complete schedule of not only the nailing FX, but all of the sessions that are being done by other team members doing stocks and options and futures. And if you're interested in looking at any of those things, go ahead and go to www.tradewithufos.com/nailingfx, and that will bring up the complete schedule for all of the presentations, all of the sessions that are being done, and you will be amazed. You will be amazed at the caliber and the level of experience that the other instructors have. I am always amazed. So go ahead and shoot over there. Remember, it's tradewithufos.com/nailingfx and see the entire schedule. You'll probably be interested in some of those other things. Speaking of the Nailing FX education team, again, I want to remind you that Cherian is in Dubai. I'm here in Vietnam. Andrew's in Singapore, and Pedro's in Spain. And we are trying our hardest to help you out and get you in a position where you can get selective, very selective, and get only high probability trades that should help you. Okay, there's never a guarantee, and because of that, I need to read you the disclaimer. The following videos, clips, demonstrations, presenter guides are for educational and instructional purposes only. Trade Dictive and Trade with UFOs and its presenters provide training information purely for the purpose of demonstrating a method of using the products. Users understand that all the content used in the information presented is purely for demonstration purposes only, are not instructions to take trade. We never give you instructions to take trade, and does not provide any indication or prediction of actual results. As a user, you understand and agree that hypothetical results obtained through any presentation demonstration does not indicate in any way the results you may receive by using products or methodologies we offer. Phew! All right, let's go ahead and see what we want to do today. I'm going to introduce you to the market timing clock. The reason I'm going to do that is because I get a lot of questions from people like, for instance, why am I streaming at 11 o'clock at night on the East Coast of the U.S.? Well, because it's not 11 o'clock on the East Coast here in, excuse me, in Vietnam. And you'll see in a few minutes here all of the opportunities. So market timing clock is going to be very interesting for you to see that. Gives you the information of what sessions, who's active trading, and the other question I always get is, what currency pair should I be trading? Well, it depends on what time you're trading. So all that information will be available to you at the Market Timing Clock website. So we'll go take a look at that real quick. Then we're going to go ahead and get into our 4x8 ZMAs, the Zulu Mat moving averages, the enhanced and advanced that I helped you build last session. Okay, so then we're going to go ahead, because we didn't have a chance at the last session, to go ahead and focus on the MACD, and we're going to look at the MACD pivots. I have created a small indicator that helps you identify and see those pivots. And if you're interested and want to get that indicator, you know what to do. You go ahead and send an email. All right. And we're going to also see why the MACD can help us with divergence and trend. I briefly talked about that some sessions back. We'll just go quickly review on that. Then, of course, we correlate the MT4 data with the trading view data to give us the UFOs, the unfilled orders, the woo, here we go. All right, and then we're going to try to get to some hunting for some trades. So here's, you take a look, here's the market timing clock. I'll go to the website in just a minute. I don't want to break up this presentation, but these are some screenshots that I took of the clock. And you can see there is a reference website where traders decide when it's the best time to trade Forex and which pairs to trade. And you can see my clock is set for my local time zone, okay? And that's UTC +7, okay? And when I took the screenshot yesterday, it was 4 o'clock. But here's the dark clock here on the left, and the lighter clock over here on the right. You can see that there are all of the major areas, major cities that are trading. Here's the 10 to 11 local time. And you can see that during the 10 to 11, all of this would be highlighted in orange. That would mean that Tokyo, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Singapore, Mumbai didn't get in there yet, Sydney, and New Zealand, all of those were trading. All those are trading. You see this green dot? This green dot right here, this green dot right here tells me that, and if you look over here, that's about 9:30, just before. That's when the best time to start trading, and then end trading during this time. Then we have another setup over here, and you can get those. Now, looking at the lighter colored clock, you see there are some grayed areas, Well, those grayed areas actually indicate good times to be trading. Taking a look, and then you're looking at the openings here. So we're looking at openings for the trading. So again, this website is market24hclock.com. Market24hclock.com. That website, we'll go to it in just a bit. You'll see. All right, so we are going to look at the 4x8, okay, 4x8 enhanced MACD. Actually, we're only going to look at the 3x8s. I'm going to cut out the brown line for our purposes here. That's a little more advanced. We'll look at that at some other time. Okay, so we'll look at the 3x8s. Then we're going to focus on the MACD. You can see we added the MACD, and we're going to look at where are the MACD pivots so that we can use that information to help us identify where price might be thinking about changing direction. Okay, all right, and then the other thing that we'll look at on the MACD is identifying divergence and trend. Okay, divergence. You can see here, if you know anything about divergence, the price was making higher highs, but the MACD was making lower highs. So there's a divergence between the price action and the MACD indicator. So here we see price is going up, it's making new highs. The MACD is making lower highs. And so that tells us, wow, there's probably a down trend, a down movement in the market coming up. When does it come up? Well, it usually happens when the MACD crosses zero, okay, crosses below zero here. And one of the other things that happens is when the enhanced profile, okay, the enhanced profile makes a knuckle. A knuckle is when it appears that all lines are flipping at the same time. It's not a gradual flip one after the other. It makes kind of a knuckle, and when that knuckle matches up with the divergence indicator, then great. Wow, that's fantastic. Now, how do we identify potential trend changes? Well, potential trend changes, again, what we do is we look for the MACD to, I need to speak a little slower. Looks like we might be dropping some frames here. We're having some technical difficulties with the internet. I apologize for that, and the YouTube network. So maybe I should slow down. I'm trying to catch up. And now I'm seeing this is happening, which shouldn't be. So I need to plug in power. Oh boy. All right, so sometimes I wonder why it seems I have most of the issues here. All right, so here is the trend indicator. So again, what we do is we find the highest point on the MACD, and then we look for the next highest point that is lower, okay, significantly, and we draw a trend line. From the highest to the next highest lower point and extend it. And you can see here it intersects right near the zero value where the MACD is coming up. And that is an additional confirmation that price is likely to start moving up, as you see in this chart here. And we'll go ahead to live charts and see if we can find some of those and confirm, so you can get a heads up in advance of where price may change direction. All right, so now that I've talked and rushed through the introduction, let's see if we can actually find some price charts that will give us some information. Again, before I skip this, remember you can contact me at fxopabert at gmail. Also, my email address at tradedictive, opa@tradedictive.com. And follow on Facebook at Forex Pipsville. And if you do a Facebook search, it's at FX Pips Trading. So that is the end of the slideshow. So I can turn that off. All right, so now what are we going to do here? Let's go ahead and I'm going to bring up here is the trading view chart here. But before we do that, I'd like to go ahead, and here is the live. Here you can see the live market timing clock, and you notice here that we are trading in a very highly populated, if you want to call, trading area, because we have many places. The broker, the Tokyo is active, Shanghai's active, Hong Kong's active, Singapore's active, Sydney's active, New Zealand is active. Yes, they're not probably as highly active as trading when the U.S. and U.K. Overlaps London, but that's a short period of time. This is more stable type of trading, more stable type of trading. And some people say, and I have my thoughts on it, but some people say trading during this time frame is very much more predictive. Okay, you can anticipate things a little bit more, but be very careful when you anticipate. Also, this time frame is when China is trading. Okay, and especially Forex, if China is buying or selling dollars or gold, that has a very big impact. So if you have an opportunity to monitor what China is doing, you can see what's happening there. All right, so let's now go ahead and look at this. There's a chart of the yen, US yen. And what are we seeing here? We're seeing this is an hourly chart. It's an hourly chart. Price came down from this area up here. We had overlapping sell zones at the top. So some time ago, it came down. Although it came down from there, you can see that the profile was still showing up. So the profile didn't confirm this move to the downside, and neither did the auto climate down here. Now we had the auto phase arrows. Okay, those auto phase arrows, remember, those are alerts where the algorithm is saying, you know what, I really think that price is going to change direction, and those need to be confirmed. Well, when it closes below the low of the auto phase, then that is an indication that the alert has been confirmed. And so you would be able to, without knowing anything else, you would be able to say, okay, let me go ahead and sell at this time. But if you did sell, you had a movement to the downside. Yes, there was a movement to the downside, but it didn't hold. It didn't hold. Okay. And so at this point here, you can see auto phase still said no trade. Okay. And we also see that the profile was still blue over red over green, so there was no trade in that area. Now let me go ahead and bring up this. Here is again the hourly chart of the yen. Okay, here we see the hourly chart of the yen. So this matches up with the trading view chart. Plain chart, nothing on it. And so what I want to do now is I want to add the profile to that, the moving average profile, and I'm going to just do the 3. Now what I have is I have a template already pre-made. So I go to my templates and I see I have a Zebra 3 MA profile. Okay, so there we go. Boom, the profile has been added to this on the hourly chart. Okay, now let me just check to make sure it is correct. So I'll go over this, and you see moving average 8 on the blue line. That is correct. And then I look here and I see another moving average 8. So, whoa, wait a minute. How can I have 2 moving average 8s and be different lines? Well, let's take a look. You remember we built this last session, okay? we're seeing that we're taking the moving average 8. It is a smooth moving average, but it is based on the previous indicator's data. That means we're taking the smooth moving average of this 8-period EMA. Okay? And so now we'll check the green line here. And again, it says moving average 8. Well, again, how is that possible? Take a look. And we see that we have the 8-period linear weighted, but again, it's applied to the previous indicator's data. And so what does that mean? It means that we are applying this green line not to the EMA, but to the smoothed moving average of the EMA. So it's kind of a scaling effect. And you can see here, we almost have a nice knuckle here. These are good locations where you want to see what's going on. Okay, and when the profile goes into good sequence, and that would be blue over red over green for an up sequence, or blue under red and red under green for a down sequence. And we can see that as of right now on the hourly chart, the sequence is down. So that's confirming that we are likely in a downtrend. And we can take a look at that and say, okay, the definition of a trend, lower highs with lower lows. Okay, so in a downtrend, we'd like to see lower highs with lower lows, and we have a lower high with a lower low. Yes, we have a lower high, but we don't have a lower low. Well, that's okay, because in a downtrend, it's the highs that control. Okay, the highs are in control in a downtrend. So we do have that, and then we see that we do then fall back into proper setup where we have a lower high with a lower low. Right now, we are again looking at a lower high without a lower low. So we need to see a lower low to get a really strong confirmation that this trend is continuing. All right, so that's a quick review of the profile. Now let's go ahead and add the MACD. Right, now there's two ways to add the MACD. Well, there's actually many ways. We can go to our indicator list, and the MACD is under the oscillator category. And we come down here and we can just click on MACD. Okay, there we go. So the MACD parameters are the standard parameters. Now we need to do one thing is I always base my indicators on a typical price. So there's the typical price using the MACD typical price. And sometimes I will use an 8 here, but we'll leave it for now. And then I just say, okay. And here you see the MACD. Here's the MACD. And what we're looking for, I did an entire session some time ago on how to read the MACD. Okay, how to read the MACD so that you understand it's not the text, just the textbook when the base crosses the signal line or the signal line crosses 0 and the base crosses. There's much more information available when you read the MACD correctly. But what we're looking for is we're looking for a confluence of indicators. So we want to look at things and say, what is this telling me? How is this confirming what I know, what I'm seeing? So that's the MACD that we're looking at down here. Now, I said that there was another way to add this, so I'm going to delete this indicator, and I'm back at my Zebra 3MA profile. But what I also have is I also have a template. You can see that I have the Zebra 3MA profile with the MACD. Now, why do I set up templates? And you see, it's the same thing. It's a little bit set up just slightly to give me more room to see price action. But if you change to a different chart, we'll say, for instance, we jumped over to the pound US dollar here. Now, this already has the Zebra 3MA profile set up on it. So we go back here, okay? And so I think they all do. Here's the euro. Oh, okay. Here's the euro, and on the euro, you can see I've added the pivot indicators to make it a little bit clearer on where the highs and lows are. Okay, so a continuous run of these pivot indicators tells me that I am getting higher base, higher base, higher base, higher base. And then I had a little dip in the base, but then it went higher, and then it went dipped and went below the signal line here. Okay, so that helps me out a bit on that. And I have this other indicator on here. I don't know what that might be, but let's go back to this one here. All right, and so we'll take a look at this. And what I'm also going to do here is I am going to add my 53 pivot. Now, if I just click this on to add, boom, it tells me that this is indicator number 53 of the MACD. It's a pivot. It's the first generation. I created this in Zebra Trading, and there's some other information here. So, oh, wow, here it is. But it's not really helping me that much because it's on a different lower window here. So this doesn't really help me. How do I get it to be correct? So let me go ahead and just move this up a little bit here so we have a little bit more view. All right, so I'm going to indicate the MACD pivot from my navigator, where I have a bunch of different indicators, and I bring it down here and I drop it into this window. And now when I click OK, here it is. Here it is. All right. So let's take a look. What was the highest point of the MACD at this stage? Okay. So there it was right there. There's the highest point right there. And then it got lower, lower, lower. It popped up a little bit here, and then it kept coming down lower, 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 lower. It never went below 0, which means that the price strength stayed strong to maintain price. And what we see here is because it didn't cross, we see that the price action was relatively flat, relatively smooth. Okay, and then it came back up again here and dropped a bit, came up. So what I'm going to do now is whenever there is a pivot, okay, and that pivot transitions below the signal line, that's the clue that I go back and find the high point. So that would have been the high point. Let me get rid of this over here. All right. So here we see, here's the high point. So let me go ahead and mark that. All right, so there's the high point. And that tells me that according to the calculations that the MACD is doing, it thinks that the market is going to start to come down at that point. And so it came down, it went below and it came down. And so I can look at this, and that would kind of tell me that this area here should be an area where there are unfilled sell orders. Okay, unfilled sell orders. And I can confirm that how? By looking at TradingView. Okay, but before I continue, and you can see here that the other thing that I can do is usually price does retracements. It goes up, goes down. It didn't drop straight down here. It came down. It did come down, but you see it popped back up here. So oftentimes you will get a second chance to go ahead and look for a shorting up in this area here where you would anticipate that there would be a UFO sell zone. Okay, and then you can find that. So when a price comes back, goes into that UFO sell zone. If everything is lined up, if your climate is correct, you can take the trade. And you then look for where the opposing side might be. All right. So that's what we're doing here, looking at the pivots. This is just looking at pivots. Okay. Now it comes down here, and I can see here I have another pivot here. Okay. I have another pivot at this point. So now this pivot is lower than the prior pivot. Okay, the prior pivot that was above the signal line. That's important. Not this one, because this pivot is below the signal line. This pivot here, this pivot that we're looking at, is above the signal line. So let me go ahead and take my trend tool, put it on there, and draw it over to here. Boom. Now that might be difficult to see, so let me go ahead and see if I can. All right, get some action here. Trend line, come on. Properties. All right, so it's an orange line here, and I am going to just increase it. I'm going to go ahead and increase it much fatter than I normally would, just for the sake of viewing. Okay, so there it is. There it is. There's the trend line. Now, what I mentioned in doing this in a previous session is that I have to be careful that when I draw this trend line, it doesn't significantly impact on the signal line. I don't really want to see it touching or going below when I do this. Then this is right on it. It's touching it a little bit. But for demonstration purposes, let's go ahead and use this signal line and see, use this trend line, and see what it tells me. Okay, so what does it tell me? First of all, there is no divergence, so I don't have to worry about that. But when I look at this, I want to identify where price is crossing the trend line and starting to go above it. I'd like to see it cross the trend line and go above the trend line and above the signal line as well. Okay, so here we can see that it is struggling a little bit to go above. It just, you can see that's why I have these pivot indicator on here. At this point here, we can start to see that it's moving. Price is going above. And here's pretty clear, and it's right on here, right here. We definitely see that it's moved up. So this is giving me, again, another indication. Now, the base value of the MACD has crossed above the trend line, the MACD trend line. And when I look up above here, I can see that my sequencing is correct. I've got blue over red over green. Okay. So that's an indication that the price wants to go up. The trend is properly sequenced. And what we saw here is we see that price, go ahead, does move up, pulls back, and then makes a big move up again. All right. So that was based on here. Now we have another, if I can see if I can grab this. Now we have this high pivot point right here. Okay. And again, what happened here, we see that price did in fact shoot way up there. Okay. And we'd be watching for price to maybe do a retracement, come back. And if you recall, I call the blue line the direction, the red line is the street, and we have the green line, the guardrail. So with a strong move up, I might want to be watching for price to pull back to the guardrail. But again, I'm not focusing exclusively on the this MT4 chart. I want to get correlation with TradingView, and I'll do that in just a second here. And so we can see that did. So now go ahead and let's go ahead and move this up to this high point right here. Now this high point is really more significant. Why? Because from the high point back here, okay, you can see we did not touch, okay, this white space here. And so what I'm going to say is that this is a much better trend line, although the others worked, okay. I'm going to tell you that when we see the MACD is still dropping here, but at some point in the future, the MACD will come and cross above this trend line. Okay, it'll cross above that trend line. And when it does cross above that trend line, that's a really good trend line to look at. We should then watch for the profile. Does the profile change? Will the profile give me sequencing to the upside? And will my trading view also? So let's go ahead, and I'm going to shorten this down here like that. Okay. And let's see. Take this. All right. Got this. So here let me try to go ahead and see if I can. There we go. All right. So what did we see? What did we see here? Okay. Let's take a look at where we are here. We are in a UFO sell zone right now. The top of this sell zone is right up in here, and the bottom is right there. And it basically touches the buy zone here. We have a indication here that price might want to go up. Let's take a look where that is here. Okay, 1, 2, second right there. Okay, there's the green, the red. All right, so the red here, because this pulled way down here, it gave me an indication that price might want to go up. But obviously, there is nothing here that tells me that this is a good opportunity. First of all, if price is going to go up, it must close above the high of this period, right? And it does not. So this alert has not been confirmed. Okay, that alert has not been confirmed. So there is no buy opportunity at this point. Okay. Now we get here. We see we have one of these big. They're called thick or big red dots, circles. Okay, and that is the climate telling me that the price we should be considering going down. Okay, and here we get a reading on the climate. For the downside, it's telling me that this climate, when it started right here, should remain in effect for approximately 6 periods. So that's 6 hours. We're halfway through that time here. So if we were going to take this trade, okay, what we would want to do, and we see that the sequencing is correct. The sequencing is correct. We would be interested in seeing this come down, but again, there's probably not a lot at this point right now, there's probably not a lot of opportunity. Why? Yes, it could go down, come right in here. But just looking at this, it tells me that there isn't, if I put my stop above this UFO zone, which is also the high of the prior pivot. Okay, so we know that this is the high here, and this is the trend. The trend was lower highs, lower highs, lower highs, and we still have a lower high here. So the trend is definitely down, and being confirmed. But the stop needs to go up here. Remember, I always look for where does my stop belong before I even think of entering. If I were to enter, my stop would have to be here. We're just eyeballing, looking at the range in here, how many pips that would be to how many pips down to here. It already tells me that this is not going to be a potential trade because on the hourly chart, there is no one-to-one opportunity for me to get into a free trade. Okay, no opportunity for a free trade. And then far beyond that, it would have to go through this entire zone before it goes to the next zone. So that's what we're doing, what we're looking at the correlations here. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll stay on the yen since yen is trading during this hour. Let's go to the 15-minute chart here. Okay. And you look at this 15-minute chart and why. And let me see if I can bring up. I have to come over here, bring up the 15-minute here as well, make my adjustments. All right, so just a real quick look. All right, you can see those charts basically match up. They match up. You can see here is the blue line, same blue line here, the red, and again you can build the profile on TradingView, which is nice. Okay, so even if you don't trade using MT4, okay, you can always get a free demo, and that's what I'm using here. Is I'm using a demo for training purposes, and you can do your analysis with these two and then place your actual trades on whatever trading platform you might be using, whether it's TradeStation or Ninja Trader or IB Interactive Brokers. There's so many, right? Not everybody offers the same opportunities. That's why we were looking at this. Now, this is telling me on the 15-minute chart, I have a blue, and I see my clock up here. I always have a clock showing when I'm trading, because this clock and this clock's name. Let me see if I can get it. Okay. Let's see. DS clock. DS clock. It's a free clock. The nice thing about this clock is that it shows the seconds, not only the hour and the minutes, but it shows the seconds. And the reason I'd like to have a clock that shows the seconds is when I'm thinking that I am going to take the trade and everything lines up, okay, but the rule is that I only take the trade at the close. At the close. Now, if my clock shows that I only have 2 or 3 or 4 seconds until the close of the period, I might take the trade at the 3-second prior mark, because the probability that price is going to have a drastic change at the close is very low, almost non-existent, but it's very low. Could change, but so that gets me just a little bit ahead of anyone else that might be trading and is following the rule, wait until the end of the period. So if I'm ahead of the line for about 3 seconds, okay, everybody else that might be coming in at the actual close is going to be supporting my position. And so it's going to give my position a boost. And so that's just, again, a little bit of information talking about why it's important to have a visible clock on your trading. All right, so we're looking at this. It says price is rising. It isn't rising out of a buy zone. It's well above the buy zone, going into the sell zone. And on the 15-minute chart, there might be an opportunity to take something. The sequencing is not there. What we're seeing here on the MACD is, yes, it is coming up. Okay, it is coming up, but it's not actually there at this point in time. All right, so let's jump down a little bit lower here. Here we see we need to go back up, come back down. Now, sometimes, I don't know why, we get a little bit different indications here. So it might be that the MACD is set for 8 different setting, and I haven't checked on that recently. All right, so here we can see that price is moving up. Sequencing has come up. Let's take a look at the 5-minute here. And what do we see? We see that we have just come out, or coming out of a buy zone. There are a couple of buy zones, one on top of the other here. When the first blue dot came in back at this level, see if we can match it up here. Let's see, we had the big spike, and the first blue dot came in here. Okay, this is where price came in. It crossed the entire sequence. We got this white space, a lot of white space being generated down in here. And again, we talk about white space in the prior session where we did a very, very comprehensive look at the MACD. And so I think we would have had the potential for a trade here. It looks like, well, we're very, since these buy zones are so close to each other, we might consider them as one. Okay, one was generated back here, and the other one was coming up a little different. Looks like they actually are overlapping zones. So that would be our risk. We find from the entry to the stop and flip that up, and we see we run right into a sell zone. And so we don't have that one-to-one minimum required relationship in order to get a free trade. We always want to get into the free trade so that we have no possibility, or a very, very small possibility of being stopped out for a loss. Okay, and you can see here my MACD did finally match up. I guess it just needed to accumulate a little bit more data, and it matched up here. So here we're seeing that it did climb, crossed here, and we did get a good indication. However, this showed to the upside that we needed about 5 periods. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now we're in the extended. We're actually at 7 periods on the ups movement. So it's extended, it's prolonged. It's not a good idea to take that trade. All right. So we didn't get an actual trade, but I hope that this session gives you a good idea of how to correlate between the MT4 platform using the profile and using the MACD in conjunction with looking at trading view. And when everything matches up, you have a high probability of taking a trade. Obviously, there's never 100% assurance that the trade will work, but it's a very high probability trade, and those are the kind that I'm looking for. I want to see the probability to be as high as possible. In our next session, what we'll do is we will take all this information, now that you know about it, do a quick review, as I always do, and then we will go straight into hunting for some trades. So I'll see you at the next session, my next session. Remember, I'm on Vietnam time, so when it's 10 a.m. here in Vietnam, it is 11 p.m. the prior day, so it will be Tuesday night at 11 p.m. When I'm doing the trades, and that's true not only for the trades that are being streamed on YouTube, but also when I do the streaming on Forex, on FX Street, So thanks for watching. Send your email to fxopabert@gmail.com or opa@tradedictive.com if you have questions, and we'll get back to you just as soon as we can. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.